On the eve of the Soccer World Cup, the South African police have adopted American tactics. Dramatic music accompanies their maneuvers through the streets in a country that counts over 50 murders a day. They've also linked up with the South African branch of the Guardian Angels. Police have joined forces with volunteers to fight against crime. Tonight they've come to the Cape suburbs in a sign of solidarity. Solidarity with this man whose wife was murdered in an armed robbery 2 years ago. Since then, the neighborhood commemorates the anniversary of her death by lighting candles, a symbolic homage to South Africa's crime victims.
Crime is high, but I think that we as citizens are also to blame for that, because what we do is we criticize and we criticize and we criticize, but we do nothing about it.
Dare to care, that's the motto of the Guardian Angels. This civilian organization was created in New York in the 80s, and it now watches the streets of the Western Cape. They don't carry weapons. They train hard.
Good, next.
Their leader is Charles, a former South African policeman who trained in the U.S. 5 years ago, he brought the Angels to South Africa, supervising men and women from all backgrounds.
We need to get our communities involved. We need to get our young people taught to also take responsibility. And we wanted something that was going to be able to make a difference in the high violent society that we have, and yet would still be safe, and would make it interesting for young people.
And what really draws them the most is the training.
So there's two ways I get this arm over. What's the one? Okay, comes nice and easy. When I come in behind him, this first bit does this. Okay, when he feels that, I put that in there. See how I bring him down to my height? Because I don't want to be fighting a giant up there.
Mark's self-defense program is specially adapted for this unarmed group. The martial arts specialist works throughout the world and has even trained the Brazilian forces. In South Africa, he adapts the skills for local customs. Here, there are more deaths by knives than by firearms.
This was actually given to me by Charles. They took this off someone, so the teams who train.
Interesting weapon, this. And it's just pieces of washer and magnets and locks and things like that. So what you would do with someone is you would be whacking him on short range with this, and you've got complete control over it.
And there we are, we mentioned that one. You can see your regular gang signs, which we're all familiar with. You'll see it there. They personalize their weapons as they go. Handcuffs, things out of scissors. I don't think any of this is very new to you, is it? Oh. So there we go. Their role isn't confrontational. Even though we are practicing an arrest procedure, and they have applied them in the street quite a few times over the last 5 or 6 years with great success. But their whole job is eyes and ears in the community and a liaison with the law enforcement departments.
To do this, they carry out regular night patrols. For this group of Guardian Angels, predominantly women, night patrols provoke all kinds of responses, even being at the receiving end of rocks and other objects.
They were violent one day with us, but we don't retaliate. We just do what we're supposed to do because we know the police will be our backup.
Working alongside the police, that's the secret to success for these volunteers who mostly deal with drugs and prostitution.
I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 rand. You can come and collect it at the police station. Okay?
Tick, a mix of amphetamines that costs next to nothing, less than €1 per fix, is a plague hitting South Africa's youth. Here, where everyone knows each other, these volunteers can be highly effective.
Elizabeth, I spoke to your grandfather now the other day about your life. You need help?
No, Auntie Pat, I can help myself.
You can't help yourself.
Ek moet jou nie help.
Moet jy my keer help? Jy's vasgevang, meisie.
Ek het my aangebring, ek kan myself uitkry.
We know there's lots of drugs, and we know also our police do many raids. I tell you, there's more raids than has ever happened in our communities now.
With the World Cup looming, the vice is tightening and raids are carried out on a regular basis. Tick, mandrax, crack, heroin or cocaine, the Cape has become a worrying platform for various and sundry substances. Angels can sometimes be informers to help the police. They grew up in the ghettos. They understand the problems only too well. Derek is an ex-addict. He's tried everything. Today, he displays his Guardian Angels uniform with pride. It's his red beret, he says, that helped him get out from under the drugs.
This is my official Guardian Angels jacket. I waited 3 years to get this jacket. This is my beret, and then I've got these 2 balls at the back here. Now, these 2 balls are for the 2 arrests that I made.
Even after making 2 drug-related arrests, if you ask Derek what motivates crime in South Africa, he will tell you that poverty is to blame.
If you look at how much they're earning in Khayelitsha or Goodwood or those places, you'll find one guy is driving a BMW. The next guy is living in a shack with nothing but a pot and a piece of cardboard for a bed. The living conditions there is atrocious. It's worse than a concentration camp.
Just a few kilometers away in Guguletu, there are no angels. Violence in this township happens on a daily basis. Murder and rape perpetrated by family, friends, or neighbors. Predominantly domestic violence that fills crime statistics. Far from the stadiums or hotels, these are victims that tourists will never see. Millicent was raped once before. In 2002, a group of 10 men gang raped her. On a Saturday night last April, she was raped again by a neighbor she saw every day.
So he grabbed the cigarette. In a way, he was trying to get her attention.
We arrived the day after the rape. The entire neighborhood was traumatized. Her neighbor's sister had also experienced a violent rape by this same man. The women of this neighborhood deep inside Guguletu waited for hours for the police to help, and they are furious.
People are dying. They don't do nothing. You call for them and they don't do nothing. They don't do nothing. 2 hours. I can go now. My husband can even help me now. I go to the police, they say you must come tomorrow. For what good reason? People are dying in our streets. Last week there's a guy who died here. He never came.
In South Africa, there's 1 policeman for every 3,000 inhabitants. The ratio should be more like 1 for every 300. The police, already suffering from insufficient numbers, are busy in and around the stadiums. Here they train hard to fight the eventual hooligans who could interrupt the Soccer World Cup. They are under the vigilant eye of the French police.
To be honest, we've been criticized a lot in the past. There's a lot of negative media against us. But all in all, I have to say, as a policeman, I've seen the guys' input towards the World Cup has been immense, and I'm sure there will be a positive image after this because the training we have received is top class.
The Minister of Police walks around in his football jersey with a big smile to reassure the population, but he knows his manpower is limited. He has already called up 10,000 reserves to reinforce the 40,000 police currently in action. To bring security to this World Cup, all the goodwill and work, of course, are welcome. Private security companies are also being called in to give a hand. Shar and Mark work with one private company created by an ex-policeman who today is in the reserves. Collaboration among the private sectors, volunteers and the police is crucial.
I know that we're talking around about 4 security officers to every 1 policeman in South Africa. So the private sector is a large number of personnel that the police do not have.
This one is always operating here in Lakeside.
It's not legal.
Oh, it's legal. It's not legal. It's legal. What do you know about legal? It's what you're doing illegal.
You should have banged your face, man.
Come here and talk.
Allan's company makes regular arrests. Called a citizen's arrest, the Criminal Procedures Act authorizes any citizen to intercept a criminal. One must just call the police immediately thereafter. This man has just stolen several manhole covers. He'll spend the weekend in prison.
The petty theft leads on to the more serious crimes. So if you're not addressing the smaller issues, the bigger issues automatically come along. So it's a zero tolerance approach.
Other private companies are jumping on the bandwagon. Darren specializes in armored vehicles.
There is a big demand in the 2010 World Cup. South Africa doesn't have enough armoured vehicles to provide for a big influx of armoured vehicles. So we at the moment are working on a solution where we can rapidly armour vehicles within a day.
To convince us, he takes us to the shooting range. Just an hour's drive from Johannesburg, Darren brings many of his clients here. An impressive demonstration, he says, is more powerful than a long discussion.
Imagine this was your head. This is what your head would look like after a bullet has been fired through this window at you. Armoured vehicles, different story. Armoured product, different story. Look at this. No penetration whatsoever. Same amount of shots have been fired. This guy's maybe lost a bit of hair, but he's fine. Hasn't been touched. Perfectly safe.
With the minimum price tag of 25,000 euros per car, the cost far exceeds the annual salary of a South African doctor. VIPs coming to the World Cup, however, may find it a small price to pay for their security. Meanwhile, the Angels continue to build themselves up. Invited by the police, Charles is putting together a new group in Gordons Bay, because during the World Cup, the police will be working elsewhere.
I beg you, do not let this opportunity go by without at least trying it.
Far from the glamour of the stadiums, the Guardian Angels will continue their patrols. While the tourists will be well protected, the residents of the suburbs fear they may be forgotten.